This video is brought to you by Patreon show sponsor CT Sounds. You can check out what they have to offer at ctsounds.com. Today on the bench we have the Sony XM-2252HX XPLOD 2-channel power amplifier. This was the biggest 2-channel Sony you could get at the time that was not an ES or an XES model. It was available, first come available around 1999. It's the first mention I've seen of it in my directories. So let's just kind of check it out. As you can see, this does have the unique feature of high current and high voltage mode. Not a whole lot of amps had that, but it was more common back in the day. You've got the power protection lights. Let's go over to the side. This is a pretty simple amp. It's not very complicated at all. You've got the high level input, low level input, and you got a throughput. If you got limited RCAs, this is a great feature. You've also got your bass boost, level control, and your filter for high pass and low pass speaker outs. Go to the other side here. And then we've got a power ground and that hateful style remote plug. If you guys ever had to deal with it, you know exactly what I mean. And a tiny little bitty fan. So let's flip this dude over and see what we got with this high current switches here. Now this one unfortunately does not have the covers, but as you can see here, you've got your instructions for high current and high voltage. To the left, high voltage. To the right, high current. That lets you switch between 4 and 2 ohms mono. This is a 1 ohm stereo stable amplifier. So let's get it on the bench and see what it does. Let's quickly run through the setup here. I've got both channels hooked up to my resistive load bank. We're pulling around 2.6 amps at idle current. And I've got 4-gauge power hooked up to these tiny little bitty annoying terminals. We're going to start with the 4 ohm stereo test, 40 Hz track. We'll see what it does with that. Then we'll test it on the 1 kHz track and see if there's any difference. Looks like we got 224 watts at 14.3 volts and pulled 73 amps. We're going to run this same test, 1 kHz track, and see if there's any difference. Looks like we only got 206 watts, the same 14.3 volts, and pulled 69 amps. Now let's try it at 4 ohms mono, 40 Hz track, in high voltage mode. There we go, 714 watts, 14.2 volts, and we drew 115 amps. Before we get into these other tests, I want to encourage you guys to check out the podcast I do with my good buddy Derek from Williston Audio. It's called 12V Talk. We're live every Wednesday at youtube.com/12V Talk at 7 p.m. Central. We're also available as an audio-only podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, and many more. Now just for fun, let's try the 4 ohms mono test with the 40 Hz track in high current mode this time. Being in 4 ohm high current mode, we should expect a little bit less, so let's see what it actually does. Looks like we got 463 watts, 14.3 volts, and pulled 78 amps. We're going to keep it in high current mode. We're going to run at 2 ohms mono on the 40 Hz track. Just like the Sony Big Red before it, these amps do not like being run at 2 ohms mono, even in high current mode with a pure resistive load and a sine wave test track. This one kept throwing the overcurrent light, so we're going to have to try it with a reactive load and kind of see how it does there. So like I said before, having this hooked up on the pure resistive load kept throwing that overcurrent light and we couldn't get any testing done. So I hooked up a 2 ohm subwoofer. We're going to run it like that and see how it does. I'm going to run it in the real-time power so we kind of see how it goes. And we are still using the same 40 Hz test track. Now just for fun, let's see what kind of impedance we get off of this here, the 40 Hertz tone. Now let's crack it open and see what kind of goodness it holds on the inside. Let's see what she's hiding inside of here. This is the thing that I like about Sony, is they tend to use nice Nishikon caps. Very nice caps for a amp of this stature anyways. This was a very affordable amp back in the day. Now I know a lot of you guys hate these jumpers, but you know, it is what it is. That's something Sony did. Check out that tiny little fan. I'd like to know how much that actually helps. And then obviously you can see our high current and high voltage switches here. It's a very simple amp, but a nice amp in my opinion. I really dig it. I dig almost all of Sony's old school stuff here. Even these tiniest little caps right here. Pretty nice. Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad at all for a Sony XPLOD. What do you guys think? These are the final results. Please feel free to pause the video and check them out at your own leisure. If you like this kind of content and you're not currently subscribed, I'd like to encourage you to do so. If you're already subscribed, you should like, share, and comment below. Let's keep the conversation going. I want to thank all my Patreon supporters, but a special shout out goes to the $6 or more members: Alistair McCullum, Brent Ballard, The Third Era, Gene Nava, Joaquin Juarez, Paul Smith, Jason Nisley, Rick Quattlebaum, William Berg, Byron Chambliss, CT Sounds, and the Car Audio Guy. For as little as $2 a month, you can join the team and get exclusive Patreon-only content not available on YouTube.